Hi everyone, and welcome to our teaching and learning video for this week. It's another one in our modelling series where we're going to be having a look at the concept of multiple models. So the first question is, we all know about modelling, we all hopefully use it in our lessons, but how often do we just go for that one model and think one's enough? Is that single attempt really enough to embed that idea within the students? Have they fully grasped that concept, and will they be able to take what we've just shown them in that one model and then apply it to a whole range of potentially unfamiliar contexts? I'm sure they'll be absolutely fine in doing it in exactly the same way that you've just shown it to them, but if we were to present them that same concept but in a different context, would they still be as confident? And this is where the idea of multiple modelling comes in. So if we're actually in a position where we can model a concept in multiple different ways, then what we find is that students are actually way more likely to grasp that initial concept we are delivering and be able to transfer that knowledge or that skill to those potentially unfamiliar contexts. So it wouldn't just be a case of being able to take it the way we showed it to them that one time. Because we've shown them how to do this in multiple different ways, they can then do more with it. They're not going to see that question that's phrased a little bit differently and be thrown by it and not know what to do. So that just means that we can avoid this dreaded phrase, and I see it so many times when I'm marking exam papers. You look at the answers and there it is, nice black writing in that exam. My teacher didn't teach me this. Yeah, they did. They taught you this concept, but they didn't teach it to you in this specific way, potentially. And therefore you think you don't know how to do it. If we've gone through these multiple models, then they're less likely to write that really sigh-inducing answer on that paper. So what does it look like then? If we start off with one of the examples from maths or science, so a bit of overlap here between the two curriculums of those subjects, looking at the formula for acceleration. Then one of the simplest ways we'd introduce this, we'd actually show them that acceleration formula, and then we'd go through some simple calculations using it. Usually we'd start off with obviously the acceleration equals, and then we just get them to substitute in values and solve it. Next step, we'd probably go on to then getting them to rearrange the subject of that formula, and then a lot of the times we'd move on. That's just showing them in one way, but is that enough? Not really. They've not grasped this yet. So we need to start showing them some more wordy questions and where they can pull out those bits of information. We could show them how to use that acceleration formula alongside a velocity time graph, for example. We could then do a practical activity with the trolleys, ramps and little ticker timers, and again bringing that formula into play using a different context. So we're still focusing around that very core idea about using this acceleration formula, but we've presented it to them in a range of different ways. We've shown them these different models of how this all comes together. If we're thinking about some other subjects, it may well be that we're doing a comparison in history between two different sources, in English between two opening paragraphs. So a nice simple way to do these multiple models here is you get those two examples side by side and then get the students to unpick the reasons why one is better than the other. And of course we need to watch out for them just sort of saying that one's longer. Cool, just because there's more writing doesn't mean it's better. And then we can start to unpick what makes it better. How is this one better? Look at the language that's used. Look at the facts that are contained within it. And this then helps them shape an idea of what their work should look like if it's writing a paragraph. It helps them to identify those key aspects of good quality sources in history that they should be looking at when they're actually evaluating them. And it also works in those creative subjects where there isn't actually just one correct answer here. So where there isn't just a singular outcome they could get, what we can do is we can show them three different potential outcomes. And the idea between those three different outcomes we're showing them is they're all focused around that one key concept we are delivering. I don't know, maybe an art could be something like life drawing in charcoal. But each of those drawings they've made in charcoal is highlighting a different aspect that's been done well. One might focus on the very realistic features, one might be a little bit more abstract, one might have really great use of shading. So what we can look at there are 3 different models, different outcomes of this same task that they are going to actually be undertaking, and you get to look at each one in turn and then pick out the good bits about it. What makes that a good outcome? And that they can then apply to their own projects, and obviously we can then hopefully get some good outcomes from the students as well without being too prescriptive on what it should be. So obviously having those 3 different ways that you can approach something lets you discuss those common themes that run through them and the unique features of the other ones. So next time you are actually doing something, then going for that single model, maybe think about another way that you could approach it. Give it a second model or a third model. Try to get them to think about this in more than just that one way that we first introduce it.